Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar where we will walk you through the latest product updates. My name is Veronika Avdevich, and I'm a product manager at Ortto. Pete, another product manager, and I will walk you through HubSpot integration, JSON dynamic content, and score update. If you have any questions during the webinar, please type them into the chat window and Emily will answer them. And today we will start with HubSpot. Let me share my screen. HubSpot is more than just a CRM system. HubSpot provides their customers with the marketing and customer service tools. In the Ortto HubSpot integration, you will be able to transfer the data and track activities that are necessary for your business case. Let's have a closer look at this integration, and we will start with the connection process. To connect HubSpot data source, you need to go to the data sources, click New Source, and select HubSpot, and click Get Started. On the first screen, you will see the list of default activities you will start receiving after connecting this data source. It just needs some time to load. And on this page, you can select Ortto CDP fields that will be modified by data from HubSpot. Or if you don't want the fields to be modified, you can select Don't Modify System CDP fields. Click Connect. After clicking Connect, you will be sent to HubSpot where you will need to select an account you want to integrate Ortto with. In my case, I have multiple accounts, and that's why I will go with app test account. Choose account, and HubSpot will ask your permission to connect, agree, and proceed further to object sync step. Here you will see all default and custom objects from your account. As you can see, only 3 objects are selected by default. We will use contact and deal objects to populate contact fields in order. Company object will populate data for organizations in order. Even though we import this object by default, I will recommend you to review the fields you want to see in order and select more if needed. I, for example, need industry field to target the audience. I can find it here. It should be selected by default, but just in case, I need to go through all the fields and choose the ones I need. As for all other objects, either default or custom, it is totally up to you to decide what data you need in Ortto. For instance, if you use the HubSpot meeting scheduling tool and you want to create a journey to remind people about the forthcoming meeting, you need to select the meeting object and all necessary fields. I will select meeting and all 20 fields. Or if you don't need some objects in order, just leave checkboxes unticked. On all objects you selected, we will create 2 types of activities: object created and object updated. For example, contact created and contact updated. Same for custom objects. For deal object, we will also add deal stage changed. If Ortto cannot automatically link identifiers to an object, you can configure it yourself through set identifiers. Here the system configured everything itself, that's why I don't need to configure it, but you can, because this feature enables you to determine how objects are linked to contact fields or other objects. Don't stress if you forgot to add an object or an object field during setup. You will always be able to do it later on the data source view page. And the last feature on this screen is an option to select a field that will determine email and SMS permissions. When you selected all necessary data, you can click Next. It can take some time if you have a lot of data. Here you can choose the time period for storing activity data, and we give you flexibility to choose activities you want to enable the retention feature for. You can select all activities or just particular ones. For now, I don't need this option. I will go with just only store the last 90 days of activity data and click Next. Yeah, I'm sure. On this screen, you can choose if you want to import all records or only some part. For example, you can import records that belong to a particular team. You can select field here. As you can see, there is team field, but I want to import all records. Hit Next. And the last step here is merge strategy as with all other data sources, and click Sync. Done. Again, you can see that it's syncing. It can take time depending on the amount of data you want to transfer from your HubSpot account to Ortto account, especially if you want to store data for the last 5-10 years. But normally it in my case it took just a few seconds. One more feature that will be enabled after you connect to HubSpot is journey action shapes. You will be able to create and update records in HubSpot. And let's check how it works together. As you can see, I already have a journey here. With the entry criteria, submitted widget form has occurred where widget name is ebook download. When website visitors submit the form on the website to download ebook, we want to create a contact record in HubSpot. And let's do it together by using the create record action shape for HubSpot. And here's you can create any kind of record, contact, company, deal, or objects you selected before, but we will go with contact. And here we show some fields by default. If you don't want some information in your HubSpot, you can delete it. For example, you don't need city, you don't have to use it, or if you need more, you can add more fields here. Okay, let's create this shape. Now now we have this shape, and now when someone downloads our ebook, we will create a record for this contact in our CRM system in HubSpot. And we don't want to just stop here. We will want to send an email to them. As they downloaded the ebook, they must be looking for some solution to their problem. And this is a chance for their sales team, for your sales team to reach out. Sales team doesn't have to contact any person who downloaded the ebook. We can automate this part and send emails through Journey. And when a potential customer responds to this email, sales team can give a call and have a proper chat. As you can see here, I already have an email, but I want us to personalize it with merge tags, which will increase our chances to get response. And let's use HubSpot data for this. Hi, and let's select HubSpot contact. Hi, name, first name. My name is, we want to introduce ourselves, but as you know, there can be like many salespeople, and we want to place, we want to we want this website visitor to see the name of that salesperson this contact record belongs to. That's why we will add merge tag as well. And already have owner here. Let's edit. My name is, and we will place contact owner name here. I noticed that you download our How to Improve Your Marketing Strategy ebook. I would also like to share case studies of our customers, and we want to add industry here as we want to narrow down the audience. For example, if this is an ad tech customer, we will say, I would also like to share case studies for our e-tech customers or for of our e-commerce customers or B2B customers. That's where we will add industry merge tag. And now email looks so much better. Let's save it. And let's publish it. As email looks so much better, and the person who will receive this email will be more likely to respond. Of course, you can have more follow-up emails based on different criteria. For example, here this journey has one more follow-up email we send in 2 days after they receive the first one. With this integration, with HubSpot Ortto integration, you're able to do much more, from audience creation to report building based on HubSpot data. And that's it from me for today. And I'm passing the floor to you, Pete.
Cool. Thanks, Veronica. Excuse me. I'm going to keep going, and we're going to have a look at 2 more features that we've got ready to go for you today. The first one I want to show you is about dynamic content. So sometimes you want to create your emails campaigns and you want to have dynamic content that you're putting into the emails based on some external source, perhaps a JSON API endpoint that you can use to populate information into your campaign without having to recreate it each time you've got new content to show. Now, we have merge tags within Ortto that you can use to do this, but if you have information that perhaps is updating more dynamically than what you can do to update into Ortto, or just it lives in a different system, then this might be a good solution for you. Now, I'll take you through what this looks like, but with your endpoint, you can then either have the information from that endpoint updated for your email for everyone. Everyone will use the same content, or you can have it at a per contact level as well. And I'll give you 2 examples now of what they look like. For the first one, I want taking on the role of a travel company, and I've just set up a simple journey here that is set up to send weekly on a Tuesday, and I've started setting up an email which is going to contain the latest blogs that we've sent about our travel website. And so by this approach, I can set up my email once and kind of put some placeholders in for my top blog posts. And then by referencing from this JSON endpoint, I can dynamically have the content of those blogs updated every time the email sends. And the fact that this is across the campaign for all recipients is also a major benefit over using something like merge tags, where I would have to provide the value of these fields for every single person who's receiving the email, which is not particularly practical. So let's have a look. I'll take you through it and see how we do this. So I've got my email to start with. Give it a head start just so we can get straight into it. So the first thing you need to do on the setup page, down under advanced options, we're going to turn on dynamic content. Okay, now I've got an endpoint ready to go. Let me just grab that and copy it over. So this endpoint, it's a post endpoint, and I want to use once per campaign. So the information in this endpoint is going to be the same content that I use for everyone receiving the email. In this case, the value of the blog posts. So I've set that here. Let's proceed to our design. And I've just started setting up a bit of a placeholder here for my blog post. So I've got 3 placeholder images and some buttons, and I'm going to take my JSON and use that to dynamically populate the images, buttons, and URLs for my blog posts. So let me just show you what my JSON looks like. Some people, this might not make much sense, but it's a pretty simple case. I'll just make it a bit bigger here as well. So here you can see the general pattern. I've got 3 titles of my blog posts, 3 URLs of the blogs, and 3 image URLs that I'm going to use. Let's get that away again. Now, all I need to do to add the content of this JSON object, let's start with the button, which would be a link to my blog. And if I do, just like merge tags, you can see the format up the top here for first name, double curly bracket, JSON.title is the name of my field. So I can do title, and I'm going to copy title 2 and 3 across to my other buttons. Obviously, this is a pretty straightforward example, but you can get the idea. And the other part I would need to do with my buttons is set the URL over here on the right. I'm going to write JSON.URL and so on, JSON URL 2 and 3 if I want to go through. The next thing I want to do, though, is set up the images here. So I've made this image a dynamic image, which means it's going to populate based on the value in this field at the time of sending. So I do have to put a placeholder image here just to set the dimensions I want. And now I can put in my JSON.image URL tag, and let's do it for the other 2 as well. Image URL 2 and image URL 3. That's set up, ready to go. Now we can preview and just see what that's going to look like based on the current value of that endpoint. And we can see our lovely blog posts have come in. My image is a little bit off, but if you've obviously created the right dimensions of your images, that will all line up. I've got my coastal getaway, country blog, and a camping blog with relevant pictures, and the links will be populated as well. Now, you can start to see the power here in that I can publish this email and save it, and then all I have to do each week is make sure I update my JSON endpoint with the values of the new blog posts, and each time it sends out, everyone's going to get the latest updates. One other thing just to call out, make sure that your email is set to enter multiple times so that each week someone can come in and get the email again with the new content. Yes, that's a pretty powerful option. Let's look at the other option now, where we have the JSON endpoint populating different values for each person in your contact list. So this might be particularly helpful if you've got people maybe who are signing up for accounts, and their details are getting added to your endpoint as they go, and you want to then use that value to send them an email. So I've just to simulate the idea here, I've set up a booking confirmation journey. So someone will enter when they create a booking in Calendly in this case, and then we're going to send them an email to confirm that booking. And I just want to populate that email with the name of that contact, which is available in my JSON endpoint. So like before, I turn on dynamic content for the campaign. However, this time I've got a different URL, and I'll show you shortly what that looks like. And I'm doing a per person request type. Okay, so let's proceed to the email again. And I'll copy across the JSON just to show you what that looks like. Make it bigger again. So I've kept it pretty simple. Just the contact ID of someone in my audience who I'm sending to. And so for each contact ID, I have the same format of the JSON under that. In this case, it's just a name field, taking a cricket theme to go with the World Cup on at the moment. And so as I send this email out, it's going to look at, for each person, it'll look up the corresponding contact record in my JSON endpoint, and then use that to figure out which name, in this case, I populate with. And if someone in my list, their contact ID does not exist here, then it would just go to your empty or default response, depending on what you've set up. And you can get this information from looking at the contacts on the CDP index, or you can get it via the API. So let's take that back again. And just as a reminder, there is a help doc. I think it's been shared in the chat already. And this will be recorded, so if you need to go back and look at the details more closely, you can definitely do that. So in this case, I'm just going to populate the name up here. So JSON.name. So I don't need to change how I build this at all. I'm just looking at the content that is repeated for each contact. And so I've got name that I've put in here for my confirmation email. Go to preview, and again, you can see I've got that coming through. And each time I populate a new random person, it's getting the different name for that contact. So yeah, that's our idea of the dynamic content using your JSON API endpoint. If you do have questions, please place them in the chat, and Emily will have a look for you and respond. Or if not, reach out to our support team directly, and we can help you there. Hopefully, you've got some other cool ways you can use your dynamic content as well, and would love to hear about the success you have in using them. For the next feature I want to show you, this one's actually not quite released yet, but it's very, very close, and we're just excited about it. So I wanted to show you ahead of when it comes up, is custom scores. Now, I'm in my setup page, and under customer data, you'll be familiar with engagement score. We've had that for a while, which is something you can use to give you a view of how engaged your customers are at a particular time, indicating that this is a good time to reach out and contact them because they have recently been engaged with your product in the way that you say is meaningful, clicking on emails, performing other activities. So we've got this custom scores option now, which gives you more flexibility in the type of scores you can build. You can combine demographic and behavioral data together and filter those accordingly, and handle more of the complications or the pain points that traditional lead scoring might give you, overcome those problems, and create your own custom score, moving away from those problems that traditional lead scoring presents. Now, I mentioned that there are some issues in traditional lead scoring. Our CEO, Mike, is going to release a post, excuse me, very soon that will, excuse me, the blog post will give you more details on how to best use these scores. And we've also got some other content available that will be available very soon to give you a great insight on how to use these. But I'll take you through some demonstrations of that as well, and you can see what it's like. So under scores, you can see we've created a bunch of them already, but I'm going to create a new score. And I just want to call out a few of the different options that you have, which you don't have with engagement scores, and it's going to be quite powerful for you to use. So I'm going to call this product maturity as my score, and you can change the emoji that is relevant for your score. In my case, I like to go for a ninja. So you're going to get a score from 0 to 5 of how many ninjas indicates the product maturity of this person. Now you can set your half-life as according to your sales cycle, and then you need to come up with your criteria. Now I mentioned that you can have demographic as well as behavioral contributions to this score, and one of the interesting parts about demographic information is that information is static. So if someone has a certain title or is on a certain plan, perhaps, that's just static information that you want to know, and that should contribute just as strongly across the whole sales cycle. But other behaviors like opening emails, downloading white papers, creating different projects within your account, those behavioral activities should degrade over time. And so we now have that option to do that. With filters, you can build demographic or behavioral, if you want, activities that don't degrade in terms of their strength over time, as well as typical activities. So let's start with an activity. And there's a few differences here as well. So I want to select an activity of something that is a strong contributor to tell me that someone is mature in using my product. So I've got an app that I can have an activity for to tell me if someone has downloaded the app. And when they do this is a very strong indicator. So I'm going to give this 400 points. And you can also add a filter now on that condition on the activity. So perhaps I wanted to say, maybe I want to give Android downloads 400 points, and I want to give iOS downloads 300 points for some reason. Maybe that's not the condition you need, but you can have your activities filtered. Where that can be particularly helpful is perhaps you say, I want to filter on someone who's opened an email from my onboarding journey email list. So that's a particularly good sign compared to someone who's just opened a monthly product announcement email. I want to be clear on what sort of emails they have to open to contribute, or I just want to score them differently. I can do that. So downloaded app, that's positive for 400 points. You can set negative as well. So let's add that activity. Let's add a filter now. So you can use all of our filtering techniques. So maybe I have the customer plan that someone is on. So if their customer plan is gold, that's something that's just set, and that's going to be, again, another great condition. So if the customer plan is gold, let's give that 500 points. I can set another filter to say if their plan is silver, then in this case, that's worth 300, for example. And you can see the way you go here. So lots of flexibility about this. Again, it's so that your static demographic information, you can get to contribute without the degradation. You can have your behaviors. I'm going to add another one for maybe if they've looked at my white paper. That's That's a smaller improvement. That's maybe 100 points, and so on. You can go through and add all your activities and add some negatives, perhaps if they've given some indication that they might be a churn risk, then that might be a negative score that they get for that activity. Maybe there's a spam complaint and so on. You can add your negative scores as well. So go through, create your scoring criteria. In this case, it's just about my product maturity. And in our blog post, we'll have a whole bunch more examples for how you can use this. It's going to be really powerful for you. This is going to give you great information about your customers and what they're doing. Are they a good kind of candidate to engage with to buy more? Are they someone you could even have it for? Is someone a churn risk? Help you build a score on how likely they are to churn, and therefore you need to reach out to them accordingly. So we can do that. We can turn it on, and it'll take a little while at first for your scores to be updated, probably maybe 10 to 15 minutes at most, depending on the size of your audience. But you can build that in, come across to your people side, and you can see that I've now got product maturity here. Again, it's not populated yet, so I built one earlier, which has started to get a few ninjas in. And you can also build your filters off this score, use it in reports, lots of options. So a very powerful, a very powerful feature to add these scores in, combine it with your engagement score and get really detailed insights into your customers. Now, that's all we've got for today. There is some more smaller updates which we'll announce in our monthly wrap-up email, as well as the recording of today's webinar that will come out in the next few days. So keep an eye out for those. Hopefully you found this webinar useful. Please reach out to our support team, as always, if you do have questions or feedback, and we hope to see you at the next webinar. Thanks for joining us.